Hey guys, I hope you are well. You are back on the Talkwoods tonight, and this is actually my last Sunday night for a while. I'm not doing any more Sundays in February. I've decided not to go toe for toe with Boris for too long. I'm literally going to do 3 nights a week, and it's going to be Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and I'm having weekends off. So I'm going to take a break and do some more learning. But I decided to be joined this evening by 3 fabulous people, one of whom is not here yet, but they are on their way. And so we've got, first of all, we've got Jonathan, who's joined me. This is your 3rd week in a row.
It is not yet. Good evening.
Yay. So Jonathan is a awesome sound healer, a medium, and just an all-round ledge. Basically, he lives down the road from me, and I've adopted him basically on Sunday evenings, which has been great for the last few weeks. He's joined me with a couple of other shows going into sound and medicine, and then I've also done another show with Jonathan about messages from the other side, which is highly recommended on my personal channel. You can go to Nat Rich Voice for that one. And then I actually have Charlie Draper on, who you may have known the name because I actually spoke a lot about Charlie, but then unfortunately the video that we did, YouTube wouldn't play it. So I've got a sneaky peek of it tonight. I've had to shorten it to re-edit it. And then I thought, let's squeeze Charlie on and introduce him to the network as well. So how are you, Charlie?
I'm very well, Nat. It's nice to be here again.
Good. So Charlie plays an awesome instrument called the theremin, which is phenomenal, which I'm going to show a little sneaky peek after Tracie joins us as well. I'm going to show a little sneaky peek of that. Oh, actually, we could do that now, couldn't we? So I've got a video. So I think I've done this right. So I'm not technically amazing, but I think what I've done here is if I just add the video, it should just play. I won't play it all because I don't want YouTube to ban me or anything, but this is just to show you the theremin, which is this incredible instrument that I found on YouTube and Charlie playing. So obviously I stalked him and pulled him on, and I'll put that up right now. So this should. So now I should be able to get back to us. Here we are. And behind the scenes, I also had Tracie messaging me. I was like, oh my God. So I think she is just saying it's the one I emailed her. So basically, I might have made a boo-boo. But how amazing was that machine? The device, even the instrument. I keep saying device. You've seen one of those before, haven't you, Jonathan?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and that was wonderful, Charlie. Amazing. And if you don't mind me asking Charlie a question now, how long was it? Sorry, I might be preempting what you're going to ask him now.
No, you do that, and I'll get Tracie on. Go for
it. How long have you been playing the theremin, Charlie?
I've been playing for about 15 years now.
Wow.
So most of my life.
Yeah, no, it's amazing, and I've never seen that. You know, anybody use that technique? You're almost playing it like a cello. You know, that was amazing.
Yeah, it's got a fingering technique. So you sort of make precise movements with your hands in midair, and with those you can extract different pitches from the space.
Yeah, that's just incredible.
It looks fascinating, doesn't it? It just blew my mind. And I saw it, and then obviously I spent ages just scooping through YouTube, just watching most of Charlie's videos, being like, what the hell is this? And then I saw a couple of other people doing it, but there was something about you, Charlie. I just think it was far more elegant. You were just Very proper. Did it very, very English-like, and I thought this is great. So I reached out, and you said yes. You didn't ignore me. Thank you.
No.
Yeah.
I don't usually ignore people.
Good. No, I've sent a lot of messages on YouTube to various people, and they don't all get back to you, surprisingly enough. And here we have Tracie. Hello. Hi. You might be able to. I don't know if you've got anything else on in the background. So we're just joining you. We're actually already live because I think Tracie joined the Google link rather than the other one. Don't know whether that was working. You got there? Yeah, perfect.
Yes, that was. I had something on in the background, but it was muted for me. So anyway,
no.
When you joined. Sorry, I was on a different link, the Google one, but I'm here now. So.
No, well, thank you very much for joining us. You're very quiet, but I think we can you guys still hear as well, or is it just me?
Just about.
Very faint.
Very faint. You can speak up with your lovely voice. That would be good, or come a little bit closer.
I will do my very best.
There you go. We were just watching a video of Charlie in the top corner. So Charlie plays the theremin. I don't know if you've ever seen it before or not, but you just missed the video, but I will replay it for you another time. But we were just discussing it because it's an instrument that you can play but you can't see, which is really weird. Have you ever heard of it?
I have heard of the theremin, actually. I remember there was a DJ producer that I used to work with who had one. And I've heard great things about it, so I would love to watch that video another time. But yeah, fantastic. Is it actually there in? Is it?
Yeah, this one here is the one that was in the video. Each of these three instruments, they're all different ages, but all of them have a looped antenna like this that controls the volume. So how high or low your hand is above that controls how loud or quiet the sound is, and then a vertical pitch antenna. And your proximity to that makes the note be higher or lower. So by moving your left and right hands together in very precise gestures, you can control pitch and volume, which are obviously the two fundamental aspects of music.
Wow. Did you
It's amazing.
make that one yourself?
Pardon?
Did you make that one yourself?
Oh, no, I didn't make these myself. These two instruments here were designed and built by Bob Moog, the synthesizer pioneer. And then the one just behind me here was made in 1929 by the Radio Corporation of America as part of that company's ill-fated venture to put a theremin in every home. So it's over 90 years old now and one of the earliest electronic musical instruments.
Wow, that's pretty impressive, isn't it?
So cool, isn't it? I was just saying, I stalked him on YouTube. I saw it and I was like, what is that? And then here we are. But do you know what? I know I've done a video with you already, Charlie. And just before I go into more questions with you, because I'd actually like to explore a little bit more while we're on this as well, because I think it's quite interesting. Jonathan, meet Tracie. Tracie, meet Jonathan as well.
Hi, Tracie. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's just a bit of a kind of we're just going along with the flow today. It's not really, I've never really organized anything, but I like it's a little bit more real. But Jonathan has done a few shows with me as well. And it's tonight, I thought, talking about sound healing, getting you guys on, it'd be quite good for you two to meet, and then having Charlie on as well. Unusual instrument, and it's not really what you think, but it is very therapeutic in listening to it. It's just so chilling. I just like, oh God, I love it. So I thought it'd be a really nice way to complement it and put you guys together. Yeah. And it just makes sense, and I'm really interested. So I think I'm going to ask you a couple more questions, Charlie. I already know the answers, but I'm going to do it for the benefit of the audience. So can you tell us a little bit more about the history of the theremin in terms of where it comes from and it's kind of the uniqueness of it? Because there was another device I want to ask you about, but we'll go with this one first.
So the theremin was invented in 1920 by the Russian physicist and radio engineer Leon Theremin, and he'd worked as a radio telegraphist during the Russian Revolution and the First World War, and he'd kind of been intrigued by the ability of these early electronic circuits to generate audible frequencies. And he noticed when he was working at the St. Petersburg Physical Technical Institute that one of his devices employing new radio technology was emitting a curious sort of wailing noise. And in that moment, the dormant cellist within him was roused, and he decided to turn that apparatus into a musical instrument. So he quickly fashioned a second looped volume antenna to control the volume in the way that I described a little bit earlier. And he presented his instrument first to his colleagues at the Institute and then to Lenin at the Kremlin. And Lenin was so impressed by the instrument that he sent Leon on a tour, first of Russia, and then of Western Europe, and eventually the United States. And he performed with orchestras, with pianists, in opera houses and in major concert venues all across Europe. And it was really the first electronic musical instrument that captured the public imagination in the 1920s. He played in England in 1927, and as I already mentioned, in 1929, the Radio Corporation of America signed a contract with him intending to put a theremin in every home. So they sort of saw it as a potential consumer device that there'd be one in everyone's living room. And obviously it didn't quite go that way, but they did build 500 of those instruments, and their sound was used in science fiction films and psychological thrillers, and it kind of became the soundtrack to the 1940s and 50s, lots of science fiction films and psychological thrillers that used the sound of the theremin. So it kind of, even though it's never been a very popular instrument, it has enmeshed itself in the fabric of popular consciousness through especially those film scores.
Yeah, and there's one particular film, was it, you told me about as well, that it was in, that we'd all kind of know the sound from, I think. Did I remember that rightly?
So there's the sci-fi film The Day the Earth Stood Still, the Hitchcock film Spellbound, a whole bunch of different films that used it. And then its sound got imitated as well by synthesizers and by other instruments. So the Beach Boys' Good Vibrations has a sound that's very similar to the theremin that was kind of copying it. And the same with Star Trek, a soprano singing in imitation of the theremin. So, and in Midsummer Murders as well, the TV series, there's a theremin.
Yeah, that's it. The Midsummer Murders. I grew up with that. My parents used to watch Midsummer Murders all the time, and I think that's probably for me how I feel so familiar with it as well. Yeah.
So even if most people haven't seen a theremin, I think the majority of people will have heard it somewhere and be familiar with its sound.
Well, thank you so much. As I said, I'm fascinated. So, and we do have another video coming out on I Am Sound with just me and Charlie, and I drilled him on everything he could possibly tell us about the device, which will be out this week because we had to shorten it for YouTube's algorithms or whatever it is they want to do.
Get past the algorithms.
Yeah, we have to get past the YouTube and not get shadow banned for the theremin and try and stay alive on YouTube. But yeah, it was a really good one. So thank you so much for that, Charlie. I really appreciate it. So we're going to jump into some sound healing first and foremost. So Jonathan, I'm going to jump straight in with you. I know we've spoken about this. We haven't spoken about it too much on air because we've been discussing sound and medicine, and you've been joining me with hosting, kind of speaking to Elaine Thompson about all of her vibroacoustic stuff. But we're going to go into the sound healing angle, and I'd love it if you could explain to us what you think and what you understand sound healing to be.
Yeah, I'm probably going to be guilty of repeating my story, Nat, if I'm not careful. People, God knows he's not going to talk about that again, is he? But my introduction to sound healing was literally a kind of inspired thing. That's how I work. I work very intuitively with it. And sitting bolt upright in bed one Sunday morning saying I've got to do sound healing. And coming from, I'm not a trained musician. I've taught myself to play the guitar. I've got an ear for music, so I can generally get a tune out of most instruments. Not in any particular skillful way, but I can make a recognisable tune probably out of most instruments. Been in a band for many, many years, singing vocal harmonies with a good mate of mine. And so sound healing, when we opened up our wellbeing centre, it was almost like I'm Reiki trained to Reiki level 2, but I just felt as though I wanted to add a different dimension to what we offer there, and this sound healing came through, and more to do with the vocal toning as well. And that's one of the reasons why I love the theremin, because it produces some very pure tones, and the sound healing thing to me is when it was explained to me originally about healing at cell level and activating the body's own healing processes, and that really kind of just started to fire my imagination, because I love science, and again, I'm not scientifically trained, but that doesn't stop me from loving it and being involved in that. And part of my work is I would love to see science and spirituality coming together in a big way, because good old Nikola Tesla, I really feel as though he was the first kind of scientist with a spiritual background as well. Very interested in that, and some of the amazing quotes that he came out with and experiments that he did. And he wanted to give free energy to the world. Sadly, there were people around him that didn't, if you know the story. But that's sound healing for me. It's knowing that we can apply sound to the human body, and not just the physical body, but also to the emotional body as well. And it will respond in a very, very positive way to some of the most amazing harmonics and frequencies. So that's hopefully in as much of a nutshell as I can put it in that. Thank you.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And Tracie, I'm going to ask you to give your version of sound healing, and also a little bit of introduction to kind of who you are and what you do. I didn't do it earlier because we were jumping into Charlie's chat, but just a little bit of background on yourself, and then an explanation of sound healing. And I just want to say two things. One, you'll have to speak up. Two, if anybody's looking at the cat that Tracie's got in the picture that keeps coming in, it is a huge cat. It's a bred. What is it? What type is it, Tracie?
The main
And there's another one.
Oh, look. I think cats are really in tune. Can you hear me, by the way, if I speak?
Yeah, I think you might have just try and shout if you can. We can hear you, but it's just not that loud.
The cats just are so deeply resonant. They really feel the vibes. Look, Jonathan's cats come along. You know, I really do think they're just like so tuned in. Their antennas are like, oh, I want to be part of this. You know, they're very, you know, they're kind of like operating at a different frequency. So yeah, it's no surprise when sometimes they do my sessions, the cats like to listen, they like to be involved, and Bob here obviously has been part of this, and Jonathan's cat as well. So that's just a little sideline, but you know, it just kind of shows the power of frequency. So yeah, my name is Tracie Storey. I'm from Elemental Resonance, and I'm a vibrational sound practitioner, and I've been practicing working with sound, well, actually my whole life, if I think about it. In my previous incarnation, I was a professional DJ, traveling the world, DJing to the masses in various places, and I basically had an epiphany where I realized how powerful sound was, but I needed to go deeper. I needed to understand how sound affects us at cellular level. Why is sound so powerful? Why is it that thousands of people can come together in one place listening to one track and be so deeply moved? So I kind of, when I need to research more, I need to find teachers, I need to find mentors, and I took myself away from the professional world of DJing, and I found myself learning about bioresonance and vibrational sound, and I qualified as a vibrational sound practitioner in 2000, and I started studying bioresonance in 2011. So you could say now I've got 10 years in the practical field of working at cellular level with vibration and frequency. And I have to say, it's one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. Firstly, for myself, because what I didn't realize when I went into this was I was going to get the biggest mirror ever at my own self and my own stuff. And that in order for me to help other people, I was going to have to look deeply at my own inner workings, if you like. And what was amazing is that sound was the modality that allowed me to tap into things that I hadn't been able to tap into before. And that's, like you were saying, Jonathan, the power of frequency. So I was working with my emotions, but I was also working with this field around the sphere of energy, which you could call the etheric field, the emotional field, the mental field. It's like a rainbow, actually. It goes out with different levels of energy, and sound was the thing that allowed me to tap into that field. And now I realize how powerful it is. It can be very subtle, but it can be extremely powerful. And I don't think there's anything that that kind of taps into that level more than frequency, vibration, and intention as well. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So it's we can all hear you, I think, Tracie. It's very quiet, but I got most of that, if not all of it. And just to recap, the importance of the intention that you mentioned there as well, which is huge. I had Jonathan Goldman and Andy, his wife, on the other day, and they too were talking about the intention. And there's the modality of sound, and the frequencies and the energies, and that everything kind of comes together. But if you've got the right intention behind what it is you're trying to look for, you shall find it. But you have to be willing, and like you said, there's a lot of stuff there that we don't necessarily know or see at times, and sometimes music can bring that out in us. Sometimes you'll be on the dance floor. I've done it myself, no drugs needed, just been on a dance floor and the tracks come on and I'm like, oh my god, I'm so high right now, I feel amazing, and then I can start crying. And everyone knows I cry all the time, but I'm very in touch with my heart, shall I say. But I can cry on the show, I cry on the dance floor, I cry all the time, but in a good way. And for years I didn't know that you could cry in a good way. And I used to think, oh, I don't want to cry. And then once I'd got through all the tears I never thought I wanted to go through, on the other side of that, started to cry beautifully and being like, wow, and I feel really touched. But there was so much work that I had to go through emotionally in order to get there. And actually, for me, sound took me there, but then it was silence that actually got me deeper. And it was the space in between the sounds that we hear that actually, where I was like, oh my God, this is what I've been ignoring, because that's when things come up, when we sit in that absolute silence. And those things are the things that sometimes we like to just slip under the rug and pretend that they never happen, and we pretend that we can't feel them. But there is such a magnificent journey to go on with sound, and there's many reasons to why I've started on this journey. But obviously, knowing you guys and growing along the way, there's so much out there to be able to tap into. It's almost like I don't know where to start. Even though I've already started, I'm like, where do I go next? And it is such a journey. So in terms of different types of sound healing, I will actually, first of all, Charlie, have you ever been to a sound healing experience? Have you kind of done a singing bowls or anything like that? Have you ever joined in? I
have not, but I do find the experience of playing theremin to be very therapeutic and meditative. And I think it definitely affects me on a very deep level, sort of emotionally and psychologically, that you have to be in a very, like, you can't really think of anything else while you're playing. So you have to be sort of at one with yourself mentally, but also physically. You have to be very in tune with your own body and your own movements. You have to make sure that you're only moving the parts of your body that you want to affect the sound. So if you move forwards or backwards slightly, inadvertently, you'll change the instrument's sound. So it's kind of like a gauge for your entire mental and physical well-being. The instrument, it will, if you feel a particular way, that will come through in the performance.
Yeah. And you can definitely tell you look like you're in such concentration on the device. I keep saying device, on the instrument. You did say I could call it a device, didn't you?
I don't mind you calling it a device because I think it's more than just an instrument.
Yeah, I kept saying it. I was like, I've got to stop saying that, but this word device just keeps coming to my head. But yeah, we'll get there.
I think, as Jonathan said, there are, or as he perhaps alluded to, there are people who use the theremin in a kind of sound healing capacity and who've used it along with gongs and singing bowls and other instruments that are part of that sonic world. And yeah, I think it's it can be used in so many different ways.
Yeah, it is such a beautiful sound, and I haven't been to a sound healing experience with the theremin, but I feel like that's one I need to get off my on my tick list because it's so beautiful. So Jonathan, with your lovely cat there, with your addition, there you go.
Yeah. My other half, while I'm sat at this machine, she's always here, she's always present. She actually sank the teeth into my arm the other day. So she looks very cute and fluffy, but she's still got teeth. She's quite old, but she's still got teeth. I can vouch for that.
She's still got power behind her. Well, hopefully she doesn't bite you while we're on air.
I'll try to just ignore it if she does. Yeah.
Yeah, straight face, please, poker face. Yeah. So in terms of sound healing, can you take us through kind of a few different ways in which that you understand sound healing in terms of the different instruments that are used and what you feel obviously working with those instruments, but also on the other side of receiving the different kinds of sounds, if you can go into that a little bit deeper?
Yeah, I'll kind of go through briefly what I would normally do, say, in a therapy. I also do the group meditations as well, but tending to work on the singing bowls first, you know. So I've got, you probably see one behind me, actually, a beautiful Tibetan singing bowl there. And that has got it's got this wonderful harmonic thing going on with it when you strike it. And so I'll work on that, and it really kind of radiates out. I've got about 3 crystal singing bowls, one which is a big, it's like earth harmonic, huge thing. And when you actually hit that, well, not hit it, but when you actually play it, sorry, it literally vibrates the whole room. It throws this vortex of sound out, and then the very smaller bowls, very subtle but really beautiful pure tones in them. So I tend to use a combination of those singing bowls with the various frequencies and harmonics, because I love the harmonic side of it all, by the way, because we're not just one-dimensional beings, are we? We work on many, many different frequencies. And the harmonics within the instruments also work on the body as well at the same time. So, and then I have a beautiful handheld, like a crystal bell, and that just produces seizures. I'm just going to ask her to move on in a very nice way. She's just had another go at me. It's because I'm moving my arms around and she thinks, oh, that's a good game, yeah. I've got this beautiful handheld crystal bowl, and when that plays, it just creates another vortex. And I tend to go over the body when I'm doing the therapies with that particular instrument, working on the chakras, working on the areas where I feel intuitively drawn. You know, a bit like when you're working with Reiki and you feel drawn to an area. And it's amazing, you know, Nat, that when you actually move these instruments over the body, and I may have mentioned this last week with Elaine, that the actual tone changes in certain parts of the body. So it doesn't just produce a single tone. The tone changes wherever you are and whatever that part of the body needs in terms of a healing sense. Mm-hmm. That's something I've found quite fascinating. And then I'll move on. Then once I've used the crystal bowls and the metal bowls, I then tend to work then on the drums, the kind of native drum. We've got a beautiful, well, I'll say my wife, she'll probably tell me off for saying it's mine, but a beautiful native drum. It's genuine Navajo, and when I play that, it just creates this amazing resonance, this wonderful, we'll call it a bath of sound, yeah. And of course, the drum is one of the most basic instruments of all. So we all love drums, you know. We all love drumming in a certain sense. And generally, I work with my healing guides. So I have a native guide who comes through and works with me through the toning when I'm doing the drum. And of course, when I'm working with the other instruments, I will tone with those as well. And then I usually finish off with a beautiful crystal pyramid. Again, it's so harmonic. It's just literally a crystal pyramid, and you can hang it up or you can hold it and play it, and you can just put this over the body, and you can create another vortex of sound. And of course, the intention is the most important thing. So we intend for the healing to work and to go to wherever it's needed. And as I say, the voice, which is the first instrument, the first one we ever learned to use to heal with, can have so much impact. And then finding the harmonics with the instruments, as a sound healer, I love the reactions of my clients. But you know what? It blows me away every time I do these healings. It just blows me away, you know. And I'm in there. Everybody's getting the healing. Even the people downstairs are getting the healing because the instruments are so resonant. You know, it's like the whole building's getting healing. It's wonderful. Yeah. So
you know what? It's funny you say that. So you know when me and my mum came to see you, and so my mum had a healing with she was having cranial sacral therapy in the room next door, and I had the session with Jonathan, and we didn't know, and I don't know if I told you this when we came out, but my arm was up when through the session. It was just kind of, so I feel a lot of energy in between my hands, and I've done it for many years and just played around and used it in Reiki and Qigong and things like that. And at this point I could feel the energy, and my arm just like wouldn't go down. It was just firmly stuck up. My mum's was the same in the other room. Yeah. And I don't know if I have told you that, but I said to my mum, was like, my arm was up the whole time. And I was like, really? Because my arm was up. Which arm? She said, oh, my left arm. I was like, my left arm was up. So I don't know what was happening between us two, but identical kind of sessions, and not with the same therapies, but obviously that was happening between the both of us. And it's funny because we both have the same problem down the arm as well, around the front and the back. So there's obviously some kind of connection, and it is more than just one person at a time, especially when you do group sound healings. I think it's a fascinating process to go through. There's so much to learn around what comes up throughout sound as well. It's and to really process, but it's having the intention from both the healer and the person that's having the the session done. I think that's, if those intentions can match, magic can happen.
Yeah, I'm very careful as well to try and arrange the sound therapies around the other therapists. But what I've found is that when I mentioned, I said, I've got such and such on Wednesday or Thursday or whatever, the other therapists, they're absolutely cool with it, because they say, oh yeah, no, I love it, so it doesn't, I'm saying, look, it's your client. Oh, she says, oh, don't worry, they'll be okay. They'll just take the sound like anybody else does, so that's great.
Yeah, it works. You get 2 for 1 when you go to Jonathan's.
You get a bog off, that's it.
You get a bog off, very Yorkshire. So, Tracie, you and your expertise in sound healing, do you want to go into a little bit more about your kind of style that you work with, and what you think of some of the modalities out there, like the different styles that there are really that are available to people?
Yeah, so...
and I'm going to need you to shout as well, as if you can come really close.
We're talking about sound, yet you can't hear me very well. I definitely have one of those voices that is more on the lower frequency. So projecting is not my natural forte, but I will do my best.
Thank you.
Just let me know if you can't hear me. There's 2 different ways when I'm working with people. I'm either doing one-to-one sessions, which is very much specifically working on the individual needs. But then when I'm doing my group sessions, I'm working almost with the collective energy of the room. So it is very different. One of the things that it's important to point out is I do believe that I'm a facilitator, rather than I'm not there fixing anybody or sorting anybody out. My role is just to facilitate a process, because at the end of the day, it really is up to the person where they are in their journey and what they're wanting to work on. And if, like you said, there's a resonance there between the timing of the session and what they're wanting, then transformation can happen. But it's like, I always refer to this, it's like if someone wants to give up smoking, if they really want to give up smoking, they will give up. There's like, I want to do this. There's no, if you're not sure about it, then it's going to be hard to give up. You really have to have that intention behind the reason why you're wanting to give up and why you want to change something. If you haven't quite got there, then you're going to maybe have a semi-experience of change and transformation, but you're not going to get the full transformative experience,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just facilitating a process, and I'm not trying to make anything happen that isn't kind of, if the terrain isn't there for transformation to take place. So when I'm doing my one-to-one, it's very much like acupuncture. I'm working with the meridians of a person. So instead of using needles, I'm actually using tuning forks, which have a whole octave range. So I'm working from C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, the whole range, and the sharps as well, on the meridians of the body, on the fundamental points. So I'm working with certain organs. So just like acupuncture, I'm working with fire, heart and small intestine. I'm working with earth, stomach and spleen. I'm working with the water element, bladder and kidney. Goes on like this. So I'm working to kind of help to harmonize and balance the body. So it's very much about taking a reading using the pulses. It's very much based on the physical physiology of a person using traditional Chinese medicine. but using sound, which is an incredible combination. And this whole modality has been brought about by my teacher Fabienne Maman, who was a musician, or is a musician, but brought in the modality of sound and acupuncture together. So he actually, Jonathan Goldman, who you've spoken to, I believe, went to study with Fabienne back in the day. So I feel very privileged to have done my training with him. So it's sound acupuncture in a sense. So it's very much working on the physical body, but then, as I mentioned earlier, we start working on the energy bodies that are outside of the physical body, the etheric, the astral, the mental, and so forth. So it really depends on the kind of treatment that I'm doing. So one-to-ones are very different to the group sessions. The group sessions are amazing because you're basically working with like an orchestra. Like each person in that room is an instrument. And what happens at the beginning is everybody's in their own space, and they've had a stressful day, they've just traveled on the tube or the train or the taxi to get there, and everybody's like separate. So within the session, what happens, there's a kind of synergy and a coherence that happens. And my job, it's just like being a DJ really, but it's an energetic DJ. So my job is to help to allow those people to kind of get so relaxed that a coherence happens with the vibratory field. Then when that coherence happens, then we start going on a journey together as a group. Then we start moving like a flock of birds or a shoal of fish. And that's when it gets really interesting, because then we feel part of something greater than just ourselves. It's kind of quite hard to describe it in words, but I hope it kind of makes some kind of sense, you know?
Mm-hmm. I think you described it beautifully in words. I wouldn't say there was any problem with that whatsoever. No, it does sound very relaxing. And so I've got a question in the notes here. I know sound healing, depending on where you are in the world, can be anything from like £40 an hour upwards, depending on whether you're joining a group or an individual session. That, you know, the price does really vary depending on the artist that you're working with, the sound healer that you're working with, the location in the world, and you know, and I definitely do advise to try joining a group sound healing first. Personally, I just think it's nice if you're a little bit nervous, if there's other people in the room as well, and you're all kind of there in the same way, you can kind of blend into the crowd. There's a little bit less pressure when it's that way. Otherwise it can be quite intense, but it depends. Some people might like to try individually first and try, you know, not share that experience. But I personally, for me, the kind of way that I tried it first was in a group setting, and I was like, I don't even really know what this is, and I just thought I just blended in. There was like 18 of us, and I thought I'll just blend into the background and I'll go and put my yoga mat at the top. And yeah, it was nice because I was on the edge, but I still very much felt the group and was fully connected. Especially it was really warm in Ibiza as well, so the environment was magical for it. And can it be done virtually is another question. I believe so. Sound travels far, so I'm not sure on the sound quality of Zoom. I do know that apparently there has been a few problems with Zoom and sound healers, so I'm aware of, but I don't know how well that works. I'll get you to answer that one, Jonathan, I think.
Yeah, you might remember now that I spent a good few hours with Rick Pete. Yeah,
yes,
trying to get the some of the instruments to kind of work properly over Zoom. We managed to have a reasonable amount of success with that. However, at the centre now, we've got set up to hopefully begin to broadcast some sound meditations from there, and it seems to be working okay at the moment. I've not actually done any live yet, but it's all set up, it's all ready to go, and I've tested everything, and we've done a few kind of live sessions between myself and my wife, and it seems to be okay. The problems we have is I think we're limited with the with technology, because it doesn't always capture the true resonance of the instruments. But it still does actually work, you know, and people have said, you know, we do a little meditation every Sunday morning, just a little free meditation for people, 11 o'clock Sundays, and I just generally use my hand bell, crystal bell, and the singing bowl behind me there, and they seem to work okay. So it's like anything else, you know, it still seems to work over the internet. However, I would say there's never anything like the experience you can get from a full sound healing where you're really feeling the vibration, you know. Headphones are great, but what we need is a body headphone, really. If we can develop that and then immerse ourselves in that kind of environment and really feel the resonance, because that's the stuff that begins to do the healing. But don't let it put you off having say an individual sound therapy online, and we'll try to work with instruments that actually work on that basis. I'm doing quite a bit of work at the minute for the last couple of days. I'm using pure tones. I've been using a tone generator, and I'm putting it into my studio here and working with harmonics. And I'm intuitively finding the tones and the harmonies. You know, for particular conditions, I've been particularly interested in, like anxiety, and also on working on the throat as well for people who are having difficulty either speaking when they need to speak. So it's kind of this. What I love about it now is the creativity in this. You know, if you're a musician, and obviously we're talking hopefully with at least 3 people here who are, or come from a musical background, that to have the freedom to be creative in the sound healing, that's really important for me as well. And knowing that, you know, we've got that freedom, and to a certain extent we can experiment. You know, we're not using people as guinea pigs, but everybody's different. Everybody responds to sound in a different way. So it's never going to be one size fits all, or putting square pegs in round holes, you know. We've got to treat everybody as an individual, and everybody has an individual reaction to that and an experience, and that's what I love about it. And I think however long I've got left on this planet, I'm going to aim to be working with sound. So there you go.
No, I love that. And it's very, you know, when you said then about does it work like virtually, like from the internet and stuff, but it's, if you think about having a good pair of headphones and listening to a meditation online, whether it's Insight Timer, where I do my meditations on, or whether it's, you know, just listening to a really amazing piece of music, if you've got good headphones on and you can actually sit with that and you're willing to take the time to just lay down and relax in there, there will be a benefit. It's like listening to music. It's just that we're saying the live experience of that is phenomenal and can really change the game. But you can definitely get, you know, a good set of headphones, and that can really take you on a journey in themselves. I mean, the difference between the quality of headphones is astronomical. Same between speakers. And so if you do want to have an experience like this and you find something you really want to enjoy, either borrow a musician's set of headphones. If you know a DJ, get a better quality set of headphones from him. Just borrow, see if you like them, and if you do, invest in that. And you know, and it's worth spending that little bit more money on. Tracie, I don't know if you've got something to say, because I think you have. I don't know if you wanted to add something onto the end of what Jonathan was saying, but I get the feeling you were, or that might be just me.
Yeah, no, I was just going to agree with Jonathan that obviously in this wonderful scenario that we find ourselves in, that's what I'm going to say, we're not able to be next to one another, that we have to find these alternative ways. But there is nothing better than being all in the same room, because we are talking about vibration. We are talking about resonance, and I'm sure Charlie would probably agree with this in regards to the vibration of the theremin, that when you are in that vibratory space together, it literally, it's like, it transcends every, your skin, your muscle, your bone, it kind of goes through you. And we do have, the intention has to be kind of clear and focused when we're doing these online scenarios. And I have done multiple online things now live, and I was a bit dubious about it at first. I would definitely say, first, if you can be in the same place together, absolutely, that's the go-to place to be. But it still does work online through Zoom with the intention, and obviously good speakers, good headphones. But we are restricted, so we have to navigate our way through. But when it comes to vibration and frequency, there is something that's transcendental. You know, we are a bunch of frequencies, and we are sound. You know, we are walking instruments. So when there's no barriers, then it's just really profound what happens. And I wanted to kind of mention quantic intrication as well, because you were talking about your arm going up when your mother was having the treatment with Jonathan, you know, and quantum intrication, which can transcend across countries. You know, it's that same scenario as like when you're thinking about somebody and they're over, you know, in another state, in America, you're here in the UK, you think about them and then they ring you. It's like, actually, we are connected through this kind of like invisible, you know, like radio kind of bandwidth that I believe is super powerful as well. I mean, that is a whole other conversation, but yeah, if we can be in the same room, let's do that. And if we can't, let's try and get the best equipment around us to translate this message, you know, through the
yeah. Thank you so much. And go on, Jonathan, you're going to have one more thing to say?
You know, yeah, as Tracie's said, you know, just to say that it can be done online, and it's just choosing the correct instruments to do that with. And I've been toying with recording the sound and then bringing it into the studio situation, and obviously trying to cut out or, you know, find out what works, what doesn't work. And then, you know, so again, that can be recorded. It can then be broadcast and listened to through the headphones. So there's lots of different things, you know, we can do and we can work with. And again, it's just that the whole scope of creativity is just incredible, you know, and it's one of those things I don't think anybody, well, and I've walked a spiritual pathway for at least 25 years, and I've never once looked back on that. And since I started my sound healing journey, I've never once looked back on that either. It's just amazing, you know?
Yeah. Magic every day. There really is. So Charlie, I'm going to take you off mute, just because you got your drink earlier. I could hear it as Tracie was talking. I was like, oh. But have you got any thoughts on kind of the quality of equipment for somebody that isn't necessarily at home and with the best stuff? What would you say?
Well, I suppose, yeah, I would agree with what Tracie and Jonathan have said, that there's no substitute for being in the same room as somebody else for all sorts of interactions. But for music making especially, it's been a real challenge finding ways to be creative and collaborate in real time with other people. But thankfully, there is a lot of...
Sorry, sorry, it's literally, I went to go reply to a comment and I put you on mute by mistake. Sorry.
No worries. Thankfully, there is a lot of technology out there that's made collaboration possible. And one that I found particularly useful, but that hasn't really been so widely adopted yet, is called Sonobus.
Sonobus.
Yeah, I'd recommend that to Tracie, Jonathan, and anyone who's watching this, who's interested in doing collaborative music making or sort of translating sound across the internet.
Okay.
It manages to get very, very low latency. So that's really the killer for, along with sound quality. If you're working with other musicians, the killer is really latency. So how long it takes before somebody is able to hear the sound that you've made.
Yeah.
And with Sonobus, you can get really, really very low latency. So long as you've got a wired internet connection and a pretty good setup, you can achieve latency that's similar to what you'd have in a concert hall if you're on opposite sides of a stage.
Wow. I'm glad I asked you now, because I'm just looking at their website. I'm like, oh, this is good. I've just put it in the comments as well.
It's a great bit of technology, and with that, I've had rehearsals with pianists, with my harpist friend Holly, and it's just been giving us a sort of semblance of normality. Like we've been able to rehearse music together, and
amazing.
And start preparing for stuff that we'll be able to do when the lockdowns are no longer a thing.
Yeah. When it's no longer a thing, isn't that a dream? Whenever that will be. And until then, I'm not promoting illegal sound healings, but I kind of am at the same time. There's illegal hairdressers, there can be illegal sound healings.
Maybe if you just play it really loudly, then you can.
Yeah, I think so. Just get away.
Crank up the volume to the max, and people can be quite far away.
No,
What were you saying there, Tracie?
it's not about volume. I think it's about being kind of, it's quiet and powerful. It's kind of, this is, yeah. I'm not sure about making it super loud.
Is that a bit of a misconception that the louder equals better?
Yeah, it is actually. I mean, God, do we want to go there? Like, the kind of like, oh yeah, let's bang this gong really loud. Let's really shake up the frequencies. Like, no, because we're talking about a subtle energy field. So what ends up happening? Like, do you know those beautiful amoebas in the sea that are like, you know, they kind of open and they've just got these beautiful.
You're very, very quiet, Tracie. If you can just.
Sorry. Like, you know, the amoebas in the sea that open, and
Yeah.
if they hear a sound, that they just close down and they get really scared. So it's the same with our vibratory field. If we have something that's very strong, like a gong, and someone's banging it really hard, it can make the kind of the subtle energy fields of our body just like, it's kind of like a shock to the system. So we need to be particularly careful with regards to volumes, with regards to levels. But it's about intention as well. So if you can go loud, Charlie. I'm not saying not to go loud, but again, if you just need to know when to ride that frequency where it gets louder and when to come down. And I suppose I'm just very particular about it from years of DJing as well. There's a time. It's very subtle, but I'm very particular about volumes and levels. Because of that reason, and just because I've been in research places where people have been banging things really loud, and it's having the opposite effect. So,
and your healing is well, not healing. Sorry, slip of the tongue. Your hearing is such a precious sense. You know, it doesn't. Once damaged, it doesn't heal itself in the same way, as at least as far as I'm aware. I mean, like once you've damaged your hearing, it's very, very difficult to have it repaired.
And also hearing, not just with your ears, but with your body. You're listening with your whole body when you're in these spaces. So again, if you've had like an experience in your life, some kind of trauma, some kind of shock, a car accident, you had parents that shouted at you and used to throw things across the. I know these are uncomfortable situations, but we have to talk about these things sometimes. Your body has that memory, and it can be like, oh, you know, I don't like that sound because it reminds me of that trauma.
It can be very triggering.
You're going to go into that like shut down state. So we want to encourage the atmosphere where people feel safe to open up like a flower, and then that's when we can do some real healing.
Yeah, the softer the better. I love that. We've got another question here. Marina's actually just said that she finds sound is the fastest way to heal and can support many people at once, which I totally agree with. Hence me calling I am sound. I am sound. There's so much more magic out there that we can be spreading around the world. And then Erox has just said, any suggestions of what research in sound healing beyond bowls? I'm going to say, get this first. This is The Secrets of Sound Healing. This is Jonathan Goldman's book. This is going to give you the kind of basics and understanding what it is, but he references quite a lot of experiments in here as well. So this is a really good place to start. But also, you guys, Jonathan and Tracie especially, do you know any body of work that people might be able to kind of go and look at, or that you would reference, or you may have some on your own sites, I don't know, that people can kind of have a look at sound healing beyond bowls? And kind of, there's also Elaine Thompson, which if you didn't see the other day, if you go and check out Sound and Medicine on the other videos that we've done 2 Sound and Medicine Part 1 and Part 2. Elaine is a vibroacoustic specialist dealing with sound within the healing modality as a healing modality. And I can vouch that my mum and dad are both working with Elaine at the moment and getting good benefits. So I highly recommend. But Tracie, do you know anything particularly in response to that question?
Oh, absolutely. Have we got another hour? It's not a quick answer, but I will try to condense it for you, Marina, and everyone else who's interested. I recently, about a year ago, released an album Elemental Resonance, which is my company, Elemental Resonance, and it's a meditation album. Now, what it does is there's different types of modalities and different types of mediums that affect different types of the body. So we're talking wood, we're talking metal, we're talking skin. Jonathan was talking about his Navajo drum. That's a skin instrument. Little bells that appeal to the kind of the top of the head more. This is kind of more the third eye, crown chakra, the thoughts, the mental sphere. The skin drums working more on the roots, the base of the body. I did a whole album which works through the different parts of the body with different types of mediums, all acoustic, because even though my background is electronic, the acoustic sound, it's extremely, it can penetrate through the physical and the energetic bodies more powerfully because of the harmonics. So you want to think about, where do you want to appeal to with sound? So which part of the body are you wanting to work with? Which part of your vibratory field do you want to be transforming? So depending on that, you will choose the medium that works with that. So for instance, solar plexus, you want to be working here, you start working with wood instruments. So I have like little glockenspiels and like little wood kind of like frogs and stuff that help to start releasing the energy of this area. So it's a much bigger conversation, and I can only answer it in a very small way here. But you really want to start looking at the whole diverse kind of range of mediums that affect different parts of the body. Now, the album I did, if you listen through that, it's free, it's on Spotify, you can just stream it. If you listen to that, you'll start to feel where the different sounds affect different parts of your body. So it's really interesting to know where you're working and how you start opening up with those different mediums. So I hope I answered it a little bit.
I've also put the link to the album in the notes as well, in the comments section as well, that I just had a little Google snoop. And then more information about Tracie's work is on her website underneath, as are them all. I did my admin today and I made sure everybody was underneath, and everyone can be found and kind of stalked if you want to. Try to be nice, but yes, you can stalk them from links underneath. There's so many amazing different bodies of work out there from so many different people, and you can get lost. It's like I don't think I've done myself much favor. I basically decided to focus my life on two things. One is crypto and the other one is sound, both of which have their own rabbit holes, both of which do not let up, both of which just go, and you find something fascinating and you're off in another direction. I get continuously lost. Every week is crypto and sound, so I've kind of punished myself on that one. But I love learning about both. I think they're both very, very interesting, and they're a little bit like mycelium with the mushrooms. Everything is connected underneath the ground. Everything is connected to everything else. It's just going to take a little time for you to find it, but then you'll realize how everything reflects everything else, and it's such a magical journey to go on. But sound is a deep process, especially if you're willing to use it as a healing modality. If you're, instead of just learning it intellectually, like Einstein said, imagination's far better than intelligence and intellect. And I highly agree. If you can literally lay there and imagine that the music is doing the work, you're going to cry. You're going to get those emotions that are going to come up and you're going to feel it. But that is, for me, the most profound way of healing, because you're releasing at the same time. It's not a logical click. It's an emotional, it's an embodied one, which I feel are the best. I'm just checking any more comments that we saw here. Marina, you sound like you know quite a lot in the comments. Reach out to me as well. Let me know what you do. You're obviously working with sound. It'd be cool to have a chat with you too. But yeah, there's some really good comments there, guys. Thank you so much. And Jonathan, just before we go, was there anything that you feel in terms of a body of work that people might want to be able to take a look at?
I think Tracie mentioned it, how long have you got really? But it's such a diverse field, isn't it? Is the field of sound. I perhaps can only recommend doing what I did, Nat, and that is to use your intuition on it, to kind of feel what you actually feel drawn to. Because the thing for me was I had to do vocal toning. That was the thing. It was really important that whichever journey I took, it was down that route. And I must admit, I struggled a wee bit to find that route, if you like. I looked on the internet, even got my wonderful wife involved, and she's very good at that. She's great at looking up train times and things like that. And then she came up with this amazing place, where I found someone who would teach me with the vocal toning and I work with crystals as well with the sound too. So it's whatever I feel is whatever you feel is right for you. Yeah. Many times people will say to us, "Oh, I've looked up so many people, but I was drawn to you or drawn to this person," and I feel that's how we intuitively work as human beings. So go with the flow, and whatever you feel is right for you, go with that.
Yeah, no, I love that. And that's the great thing is follow your own intuition. It will never lead you somewhere you're not meant to go. As long as you're listening and being willing to follow, you will flow. And I think we will end it on there. I'm just seeing if we've got any more comments on there. Marina, I don't know if it's you, but I also did do a little Google snoop. I found someone called marinabarrett.com. Maybe you, may not be. If it is, your site looks great. If it isn't, somebody else's site looks great, but it looks great all nonetheless. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. And this is obviously the last one in my actual series that I've done. Can you believe I've done every night since New Year? It's crazy. Can't believe it. Apart from one when I flopped. I put Charlie's in and then it didn't go live. So I jumped on, but I didn't do a full show. But apart from that, I've done every single night since the beginning of the year. And I'm so grateful to everyone accepting my invitations and joining me and sharing their wisdom, because it's been a really magical journey for me as well. And it's helped me kind of decide where I want to go with I Am Sound, what kind of content I want to have. I've got the TV platform starting. And it's just helped me synthesize everything and bring it all into one place. So, guys, thank you so much for joining me this evening. I really appreciate it. You are legends all in your own right. And if anybody wants any information about these guys, just go underneath in the descriptions and you can definitely reach them there. And they'll be happy to talk to you, I guess, in some way, as long as you're all right with that. I haven't put anybody on mute, have I? No, before we say goodbye. No, we're all off mute. Has anybody got anything to add before we go?
Just thank you, Nat, for creating this, container for us to talk about this and to express the work to other people listening as well. So yeah, good job. Every night since New Year's Eve, that's pretty impressive. So
I know. A bit crazy when I think about it, but I wanted to see how long I go, and I thought I was going to go toe for toe with Boris, and I'm like, that's a really shit idea, Nat. Don't do that. So I've changed it. I just said, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. But I will be here 3 nights a week. So it's Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. This week we have, what have we got? On Tuesday, we've got Living with Anxiety. We've got a really interesting talk with anxiety on Tuesday. On Wednesday, I should know what I have, shouldn't I, considering I've just piled it down. Let me read this out for you. So we have Tuesday is Living with Anxiety. Oh, Wednesday, you're with us again, Jonathan.
Yeah. Sorry, folks.
So Jonathan's going to be joining me on Wednesday because we've got what the fuck is a spiritual awakening, which is a great question because everyone seems to be having them right now. So we're going down that rabbit hole. And then we have the Sacred Death, which is going to be a really beautiful show. It's 2 people that I know and love very well, very dearly, sorry. And it's the transformational side of death as opposed to it from a sorrow perspective and what it can actually be and how beautiful it is. And that's going to be a really, really beautiful show. And their voices, both of them are meditation teachers and speakers, and their voices, one of them reads storybooks for children at night time. He's a granddad and he's got the oldest, wisest voice you've ever heard. And the other one is my friend Chris, who's got an amazing meditation project. But if you don't fall asleep to the sound of their voice on the show, you will learn a lot at the same time as well. So I appreciate that. But for everybody else at home, you guys stay there, but you guys at home, thank you so much. I will see you all on Tuesday evening if you join us. And thank you for supporting me in this crazy long journey that I did for the last few weeks. But I'm very happy it's come to an end and I'm ready for what's next. So bye for now.